Welcome to Untold Physio Stories, a podcast that informs and educates by connecting you to rehab industry leaders who share their candid successes and failures in business and practice.
This episode of Untold Physio Stories is sponsored by Edge Mobility System. Edge Mobility System is your online site for everything a PT, OT, DC, MT, ATC, or fitness pro would need. Get certified in blood flow restriction therapy or training online. Check out our full modern manual therapy seminars, ISTM toolkit, Edge suspension trainer, portable tables, and more. Untold Physio Stories listeners can save 10% by going to edgemobsys.com. That's edgemobsys.com/untold to save 10% off their first purchase.
Edge Health and Tech Solutions. We do websites that work for you and give you an edge over the competition. Did you know that you have less than 10 seconds to capture someone's interest in your website before they click away? How about the fact that most people are accessing your website from their phone? Save thousands and get a fully mobile, appealing, and SEO-optimized website linked to your social media, email list, and Google My Business. All for one low price and no monthly fees. Why not keep doing what you do best in your business and allow us to handle the tech side? Let's get started. Find us at edgehealthandtech.com.
Welcome back to Untold Physio Stories. I'm one of your hosts, Dr. E, with Edge Mobility System, The Eclectic Approach, and of course, Untold Physio Stories podcast. And with me is frequent guest, Dr. Alex Kirbach. How's it going today, Alex?
It's good. Good to be back.
Yeah, thanks for coming, or thanks for being here. I know a while back you wanted to do kind of an interesting, kind of powerful story, but someone else had done something similar. But I think it's been long enough, and people have very little attention span, so now you can basically tell yours. What do you have for us today?
Yeah, I thought it would be kind of nice to kind of talk about my story of how I almost failed out of PT school in my first semester. That was a pretty dark time, but also I think it was probably one of the best things that happened to me. And because of it, it made me it led to me becoming the PT I am today. And so I don't know if I would have done that if I hadn't had this experience. So I guess a little background on me, I started to get interested in physical therapy all the way back when I was a junior in high school, and kind of had already decided around then that this is what I wanted to do. So, going into college, that was kind of my whole focus was, getting good grades and getting ready to apply to PT school. And then, I got into USC, which, at the time was the number one program in the country for like 14 plus years. So, I was feeling pretty good about it and got into the program, and it was the most challenging time and stressful time I've ever had. I used to think I didn't have time to hang out and socialize and do all the fun things of college and undergrad. And I got to PT school, and I just remember thinking, what was I doing with all my time in undergrad? And so I'm really good at taking tests. Undergrad really prepped me for taking tests. And I got to grad school, and I'm surrounded by all these other really smart people. I remember we were all kind of stressed out and studying, and they were just kind of complaining, oh, I've never had to study in my life. This is hard. And these were people who were getting like 3.9, 4.0 GPAs in undergrad, and they didn't go to class, didn't really study. And I went to every class. I studied all the time. And so I felt kind of inferior almost, I guess you could say, compared to a lot of my classmates. And the kind of our first midterms in our ortho class, we had our written exam, but then we had a hands-on practical. And so I've never done a hands-on practical before. So that was new to me. And what ended up happening was I got selected to do a slide board transfer, and I did everything right, except I didn't instruct the patient to, when they transfer themselves from the bed to the wheelchair using the slide board, to make sure they keep their hands on top of the board and aren't gripping underneath and, smash their fingers when they go to sit on the board. And so that gave me an automatic safety fail. And so,
Well, did they smash their fingers?
no, because it was a PT mocking as a patient. So,
Right.
yeah,
It could still happen though.
it could. And so I was like, and for that semester, being our first practical exam, they give us 3 tries to pass before you say, you failed the course. You have to wait till next year and, retake the course basically, and you can't continue in the program. And so I had the second try, and I kind of didn't really work on the things that I knew I could. There was certain things that I knew I was going to be tested on, and I didn't really put a lot of effort into it because I was like, oh, well, I just had a brain fart and it was a safety fail because I just forgot this one thing. So I wasn't super worried about my abilities to do the other stuff. So I kind of just blew off practicing. And so my next one was a pivot transfer, and I do it. And then as soon as I do it, I go, oh, crap. Because I get the patient up and I go to pivot and I go, that chair is way too far away. And I completed it, but it was ugly. And I just knew that was not good. So I got another safety fail, automatic. So I was on my last try. And by now I'm kind of freaking out because I've never failed anything in my life. And I had spent 7+ years of my life at this point now dedicated to being a PT, and I'm on the verge of failing out in my first half semester. And there's a little bit of pride and ego in there because I was living in a house with 3 other guys in my class, and it's a big class. And so it's like, well, if I fail and I stay here, can I swallow my pride and my ego to stay here while they're all going through the program and I'm not, and maybe working out at a gym or something, or doing something to just make ends meet, and they're all continuing through the program and I'm going to be stuck a year behind them. I didn't know if I could do that from a pride standpoint, and so I got really worried. Didn't really tell people I was worried, but at night, lying in bed, there were some dark moments there. But luckily my roommates were super awesome. And my second year buddy was also really awesome. We spent hours after class for several days just practicing gait training with crutches and walkers, stair training with assisted devices, just hours just going through it again and again and again, and really rehearsing, what am I going to say, and trying to game out different scenarios. And so that was super awesome, and they helped me pass, luckily. But then that kind of made me realize this, I struggle with the practical side of things. The book stuff, I'm great. I feel confident in the book stuff, but the hands-on things is where I had a disconnect. And when I started getting out into the clinic in my clinical rotations, I felt that's also where I was struggling. I felt like USC did a great job of teaching us this really great stuff from a book standpoint of the assessment and treatment and all that. But then when I was getting into the clinic and working with CIs, I felt there's a disconnect between what I was learning and what they were doing, and I didn't feel like I was being challenged in the clinic to the level that I was being challenged in the classroom. And so that's something I felt like helped me identify that really early on. And then I got to thinking, well, how can I fix this? And I was really interested in doing this really competitive clinical in my third year with Ellenbecker in Scottsdale, Arizona, because I was really interested in the shoulder. And a couple of the professors in the program had done his rotation before. So I specifically got to know one of our professors, Sean Johnson, who's actually now one of the PTs for the Los Angeles Angels baseball team. And in my second year doing extracurricular work, small group stuff. So I really got to know him. And then because I wanted to work with him on one of my clinicals. And then so he selected me for the clinical, and it was great. And it was exactly what I wanted. He pushed me so hard. He had a reputation for treating students like they were residents, sometimes making them cry. And he pushed me and really made me, become the clinical PT that I am today. And I think all of that kind of really goes back to kind of that almost failing out of PT school and kind of going through that whole process.
Well, that's a great story. Yeah, that's pretty nerve-wracking. A similar thing happened to me. I had never failed anything, and I made it all the way to like the first summer before PT school. We had an option to actually take gross anatomy over the summer to lighten our fall load, so we weren't taking it along with all our first year kind of big PT courses.
Yeah.
So I took it in the summer, and it was the only thing we were doing, right? And I'd never had to study anything before in my life, and I studied, but I never had to work as hard as other people. And I just wrote and memorized everything. And it turns out that, yeah, you can memorize origin insertions and everything, but I just wasn't looking at things practically. And I failed my first exam, and I was like, oh, wow, it's really bad. And then I failed my second exam. And yeah, at that point, I was like, wow, I really have to work hard. Like, I have to know this inside out. I have to be able to answer these things practically. I have to look at it differently. I can't just stare at text and commit it to memory.
Yeah.
And then I ended up doing so well that I ended up with a B plus, which is pretty hard when you have like a 60 something average.
Yeah, that's impressive to
Yeah,
bring it up
yeah.
that quick.
So yeah, I barely missed anything for the last half of the summer. But I mean, also, it wasn't even like I had a lot of time because it was only 6 weeks. It wasn't like the whole semester, because everything was so um, compacted in a summer semester versus like a whole fall semester. So yeah, I totally know where you're coming from. That made me work quite a bit harder, and nothing makes you feel you don't work hard when you're invulnerable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
so it was great, and I remember Sean telling me at the end, he goes, "I was worried you weren't going to pass your clinical," but then because he pushed me so hard and I was struggling, but he was like, "Yeah, I saw how hard you worked, and you've improved the most out of any student I've ever had. I've never seen a student improve as much as you had." And it got to the point where some of the staff there were like, "Hey, do we need to have an intervention with Sean because he's not giving Alex a break?"
Well, that's good though. I'm glad that it worked out, and maybe even I don't know if you cried or not, but even if you did, you're still a great clinician today.
I did not, luckily.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if you just left that out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, where can people find you, Alex?
They can find me at kirbachphysicaltherapy.com and at Kirbach Physical Therapy on Facebook and Instagram. And I actually got something new going on. Hopefully by later this week, I will start working out of a facility in Bellevue, Washington called Athletic Training Institute. And so you can check that out at athletictraininginstitute.com. And I'm going to be seeing patients there in the clinic on top of doing some mobile and telehealth physical therapy on my own as well.
Awesome. Let us come back and let us know how that's going as you grow your business. All right. Have a great day.
Thanks. You too.
Well, you can find me, Dr. E, at Modern Rehab Mastery. That's our new online mentoring program. It includes modern manual therapy, modern patient education, and modern strength training. It's 3 months with 3 mentors. So 1 month with each mentor, 4 weeks, tons of modules, lots of CEUs, learn at your own pace for a month, then move on. So go beyond the seminar. You also get chat room with your mentees and mentors and live Q&As every week. Check out all my products, Edge Mobility System. We have the new Edge ISTM toolbox that includes the Edge Mobility Star and the OG Edge Mobility tool, our Edge Restriction System BFR cuffs. That's part of Dr. Kyle Coffey's Modern Strength Training BFR certificate. I hope to see you at a live eclectic approach course soon. That's modern manual therapy in US, Canada, and South America. And make sure to rate Untold Physio Stories 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. You could also subscribe on Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. And as always, you guys have an awesome day.